How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, do me a huge favor, go down and subscribe before we get started into today's video. I've owned my Mustang for quite some time, and I've told you guys in multiple videos how my experience is going, how my experience has been, and I've driven my car a lot, and specifically I've driven my car on a daily basis. I thought I would make a video recapping how it's really like to daily a Mustang. For those who do not know, I live in Wisconsin. I have my 2019 Mustang GT, and it snows here on occasion, and it's a rear-wheel drive 400 blah 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 horsepower sports car with a V8, so those two things don't necessarily mix together very well. That being said, I drive it through the snow, so let's get this car started and let you guys know how it's been these last 2 years that I've owned it, just driving it on a daily basis. My Mustang has an exhaust on it, which in the mornings, the cold startups can be a little extra, especially when you're like half asleep, 7 o'clock in the morning, you're going to school, whatever. It's sometimes a little too much. Other times it's not enough. But like in the mornings, when the first start of the day, these things are brutal with exhausts. Drop the window so you guys can actually hear how loud this car is. Yeah, I mean, when it quiets down, and it quiets down pretty quickly. I'm just gonna roll the window back up. They quiet down pretty quickly, but when they're in their cold start cycle, these cars are very loud. Sometimes I feel bad for my neighbors, especially in the mornings, but when they do quiet down, they're okay. But with an exhaust, these things, they get a little brutal with the cold start. Got the car pulled out, waiting for that idle to drop. Proper way for these cars, you know, you just gotta make sure the idle drops down a little bit, and then once it does drop, slowly warm up the transmissions, whatever. So I have a manual car. I have a manual 5.0 GT. Mine's a 2019 with the premium pack on it. So as far as this car goes, I would say it's one of the most dailyable Mustangs in the lineup. The base models for daily driving are very capable of doing so, but as far as comfort goes, creature comforts go, and all of those things, this version of the car has all of those without going too extreme and going into a performance pack with some harder suspension and more expensive brakes and things like that. And then also with the GT 350 and the GT 500, where it becomes a little bit more extreme in terms of maintenance, in terms of tires, all of those things, all of the expenses add up. So I would say this version of the Mustang is the most dailyable version of the Mustang that there is. As far as the S550 generation goes, or even really any generation, kind of this trim and setup is the most dailyable setup. I've driven this car on long road trips. I've driven this car on a daily basis from when I was a senior in high school to basically up until late last year. Even now, I'm still kind of daily driving it. I have no intentions not to drive this car. I bought the car to daily drive, and I bought the car to drive. So I don't really see a reason to not drive the car like I intended to. That being said, this car is very comfortable, and if you're not planning to have a bunch of people in your car, if you don't have, you know, tons of people you're driving on a daily basis, it's fine. This car does the job and it works. One of the drawbacks, one of the biggest drawbacks, and in my opinion, one of the only ones, is the fact that you can't have people in the back. So these rear seats are practically like unusable. You can't put 4 people back here comfortably. If I put a person behind me as the driver, I don't have enough space to properly use the clutch and to do everything, so it makes it uncomfortable, and I definitely don't want a person behind me. I'm about 6 foot, so I'm not super tall, but I'm also not short, so it plays a part where they're not meant to have people. If you move this seat forward, you can still have a person pretty comfortably sit in the back. I hit my head on that rear glass just a little bit. To fit 3 people in this car for 10-15 minutes, it definitely works. I think that's kind of expected when you're buying a car like this, that, you know, you're not buying them for having people in them, but certain cars do give a little bit more space back there, and the ability of having the rear seats means you have a ton of storage. I've gone on weekend trips, full week trips with 1 or 2 people in the car, and I have more than enough room to pack for my stuff and more. Most of the time I don't even use the 2 rear seats here for weekend trips. The other downside is, since you do have so much power and you do have a V8, the gas mileage is going to be on the downside. For a V8 though, this car gives really good gas mileage and I'm thoroughly happy. But for a normal person, if I told them how much like I would get on a tank, they would look at me and be like, well, my like Elantra, Prius, Camry, Corolla, Accord, Civic, whatever the case is, gets 35 miles to the gallon. The Mustang does about 19 to 20 miles to the gallon if you drive them softly, partially on the highway. Right now I'm getting an average of 21, but I have been doing a decent amount of highway driving. Gas mileage on the highway though, this car is incredible for a V8. I get about 27 to 30 miles to the gallon depending on how you use the car. If you hyper mile this car, you can get over 30 miles to the gallon, which for a sports car with this much power and an engine displacement of 5 liters is awesome. So it depends really how you look at the gas mileage. You can look at it like it's a V8 and it does really good for a V8, or you can look at it compared to regular cars, which doesn't make sense, but for some people they may want to save money but are also enthusiasts, so the gas mileage would be a drawback. So you can look at it both ways depending on your budget, your needs as a car. But I think this car does good for what it is, extremely good for what it is, but it does mediocre for everything across the board. Other than that, honestly, there's no drawbacks of this car. It handles amazingly. Of course, you're a little bit lower to the ground. It's a sports car, so the suspension is a little harder. I haven't really had too many complaints about these seats, but some of the passengers I've had who I go on some longer journeys with complain about the seats a little bit and say that they're a little harsh on their backs, which could be very possible. They're not ultra comfortable, I'll say that. They do get a little hard after hours and hours on end, as does any car though. But I think these seats are a little tough, I will say that. But overall, the ride comfortability, the drivability, the overall just grand tour of this GT is phenomenal. For the price, the horsepowers, the practicality in terms of space, the gas mileage with how much power it has and the displacement, for everything that it is, this is one of the best cars for the price point. The Mustang just, it makes so much sense when you step into them. And then of course, you downshift a couple times and you lay on that throttle. It makes an awesome sound and you get going very fast in the matter of no time. So it's really, really just an awesome car. But for the people looking to daily drive Mustangs, for the people looking to buy them, to just drive them and really enjoy them, which is what this car is made for. And it's not one of those cars you buy to park. It's one of the cars you buy and you just drive. And that's what this car does wonderfully, with very minimal drawbacks. As far as handling in the snow, as long as you're a competent driver, you should be fine. I'll link a video up here of what it was like to drive in the snow, drive a sports car in the snow, specifically the Mustang. So if you want to watch that, go check it out. That's all I have for this video though. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.